Welcome to the Lightforge podcast slash stream slash YouTube video. This is Adwikta.
This is Merps. Nice to have you guys join us for the next 8 hours, hopefully much shorter. But we are going to be talking about the newest expansion, and we're going to talk. We're going to talk a lot. If this is your first time here, strap yourselves in. I'm guessing this isn't your first time. Okay.
Yeah, if it's your first time here, you can also go back and look at the ones we did for every expansion. These go for a while. We have a lot to say. And hopefully some of the stuff we say are going to be insightful and will change the way that you view a card, or that you play a card, or that you play against a card, or that you draft a card, right? That's kind of the point. But otherwise, it's just fun to see the numbers. Because we, at the Lightforge podcast slash thelightforge.com, have a tier list, and we've had one. We've been maintaining it for like 5-6 years at this point. And in the last 4 years, I want to say, there's been a algorithm behind it that's doing everything, and we've been not hands off. It still takes a lot of interpretation to like feed it stuff, but like the algorithm kind of puts together your like tempo, your card advantage. It knows what the board states are. It knows which turn you're playing a card on, how long the card's been in your hand, what other cards you're making decisions on which card to play. It knows what your opponents are doing. It knows your hero power. It's effectively being this really smart thing that's just playing the game out the way, someone like me or Merps would play the game. So it's playing at the top level, in some ways better than us, but in many ways worse than us. But enough of a rough approximation that it'll be easy to figure out what the scores are worth. And that's kind of how we set up the algorithm and how we approached it. I would say definitely more than 99% of cards by offering rate are algorithmed correctly or almost correctly. Sometimes there's an ability that's just like so bad that we're just like, you get a point, instead of trying to like spend like 10 hours figuring out this ability. But 99+% are algorithmed, and we keep fiddling with the algorithm. So one of the things and the algorithm's been, generally speaking, like somewhere between super accurate and pretty accurate. We knew there was an issue before this last expansion of Scholomance, and we called it out on our videos. So we knew that the really accurate scores weren't going to come in for a couple weeks afterwards, because we knew there was an issue with the algorithm that we couldn't fix in time. So that was unfortunate, but it had to do with the fact that just the amount of cards you have in your hand between pre-Scholomance and post-Scholomance was so different that it just blew our algorithm up, right? So that's no longer a problem. But in fixing that, we also introduced a different mana problem, which we fix now. And the problem with a mana problem is that it affects every single card. And so to properly adapt to this new mana system, we kind of changed our approach. And I'll explain this. If you like don't care about the algorithm and don't care about this, just go on to the next video. We're going to talk about the meta, the rotation in Arena. Then we're going to talk about all the neutral cards besides legendaries, and then all the class cards besides legendaries. And we're going to have one giant legendary video in the end to talk about the 30 legendary cards or something that are in this set. So go to that if you don't care about the algorithm explanation. But I'm going to dig in right now for a little bit and kind of explain one of the big things we did in the algorithm. Because if you do use our tier list that you have in the past, you will notice that things are a little weird now once this algorithm gets updated. You're going to go to the tier list, you're going to still find Yeti at around a 100, and you'll be like, oh, I feel nice and safe. But then you'll notice that a lot of the cards, especially the big cards, are either really, really, really good or really, really, really bad. So Twin Tyrant is no longer in the meta, so you're not going to see this on the tier list. But if Twin Tyrant were to be in the system, and the Twin Tyrant's in our system, so we can just see what score it is if it got plopped into this meta, it would be like a 230-point card. I don't know what the live version says right now, but I think it's like 170 or 180. So stuff has happened, right? Like with the way we treat mana, that's making and basically it makes the really, really, really good, really, really, really big cards even better. And the not so good, really, really high mana costing cards a lot worse. Like Corehound, for example, is I could probably find it here, but it's like really, really low. I don't know what it is on live, but it was like a card that we think you might be able to draft if you were desperate. Now it's a 44 on this current tier list, and it's going to drop. This is we're still in test, so it may very well drop before we talk about this again. Okay. Oh no, we have the right numbers now. Sorry, it is a 38. So it makes sense, right? Like, when's the last time you took a core hound and weren't just like totally disappointed with everything it did? Like, this is why, and the reason for this fundamentally, if you're trying to figure out why this happened, what did we do, is that we used to use a percentage-based system to deal with mana. Which was kind of building in a lot of the playability, a lot of the fact that like you can't play a 5 mana card on turn 3, right? Because you don't have enough mana. It was building in a lot of these factors into one percentage. It was a really like difficult to calculate percentage, but applying that percentage in way too many places was just kind of wrong. It was just a historical accident that we made certain parts of our algorithm more deep and more tight and started calculating turns out. And we never changed the mana system because it was too hard. So we changed the mana system finally. And what that means is now you just subtract out the mana that you would have spent against the mana that you would have spent otherwise if you had not been playing this card, which is limited by the mana you have, but it's not the same as the mana you have because there's always some kind of mana that you just don't spend, right? Okay, so because we're doing it this way now with subtracting instead of a multiplier, that means that if you have a really big 10 mana card that is like doubly as good as the average card in your deck, now you're able to just with that one card play 10 mana's worth of doubling goodness. Whereas if you had like say a 4 mana card that was double the value of a regular 4 mana card that's average that you'll have in your deck, well, you're only going to get 4 mana's worth of that goodness. And having 10 mana's worth of that goodness is just kind of better than having 4 mana's worth of that goodness. Now, it's true that you can just use the rest of your mana on equally good cards, but you have to draft those cards, right? And the whole point of having a really good card is that you have this really good card. You're not likely to have a whole bunch of those really good cards. So that's why the really good 10 mana cards have really increased. On the other hand, right, that's the reason why Core Hound has really decreased. Because if you have a really, really bad 10 mana card, well, now you have to spend 10 mana on really, really bad things. Whereas normally you'd be able to spend part of the mana on just kind of like average cards you're sticking into your deck, right? Like, right? Like you don't want to be playing 7 mana's worth of Core Hound if you could play a smaller amount of Core Hound and have that be like kind of a vaguely tempo play or something. So anyway, we didn't really do that on purpose. That's just kind of how the math works out. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that the algorithm has been wrong for the last 2 years. And we knew it, and we didn't tell you guys. But the relationships have been like in the right directions and stuff, right? We were systematically underestimating really big good cards, and systematically overestimating really big bad cards. And we kind of fixed it. And we were overestimating and underestimating it by quite a significant like margin. And that kind of came into play maybe like 2 years ago. So before that, we were more okay on the mana thing. Now, if you guys have,
we're at the point where, for big cards, we're at the point now where the meta has shifted such that you're almost guaranteed to be able to use big cards.
Yeah.
The tools that Blizzard has given us, while stripping away actual good aggro tools, and has made it such that Twin Tyrant, it's good, but with the much higher guarantee that you're able to use it, it becomes really, really good. So is there still a cost to using big cards? Yes, there is. You can't use it sooner. But the chances of it still having a noticeable impact, like you're not at 5 health when you use a Twin Tyrant, for example, or the board is not so crazy at that point that you can't really even extract value out of it, that's tilted as well. So throughout the years, stuff that has been big and your ability to get there, the calculation has changed. Whereas years ago, We heavily penalize
it
it.
matters more now.
Yeah, it
Also,
matters more.
I think whatever number you put on it before, it just kind of mattered less because they were all kind of bad. Like 10 mana cards were just not good. The only one that people debated over was like Mind Control. And now there are like so many 10 mana cards that you really want to play. And also 10 mana cards are kind of ridiculous, like frankly these days, in the way that made them. So you'll see a lot of really big, really good cards get scored really high on the algorithm. And because ultimately we're trying to tell you what cards to draft, you should draft a really, really good, a premium, really big card over a premium like 4-drop. You just should, because that's way more mana's worth of goodness, assuming they're equally like good for their mana cost. So that's what our tier list reflects now. Whereas before, it would treat those two cards as equally good because it was on a per mana basis. And you know, there's something to be said for thinking about the game that way, but that's just not like, for example, if you have unlimited, if you could put whatever cards you want to put into your deck, right? Like that's how you would think about the game, not this way. Or if you have, and if you have like unlimited like kind of cards. So we're getting close to the unlimited cards part, where you rarely run out of cards in your hand. But the draft quality is still different, right? Like that's Arena. So anyway, just wanted to set you up on that. The number one old card now, I just want to put it here as a baseline, is Plague Proto-Drake at 178 now. That is the best card on our tier list right now in neutral. Plague Proto-Drake, which we had rated high, but like not super high before. And it's not because the meta super changed to make Plague Proto-Drake amazing. Like we've always rated a premium, but like kind of like a low premium or maybe a mid premium, but not a high premium. And now it is the best card, which is to say that it was always within the realm of the best. It's the best old card. You'll see that the new expansion has even better cards. And in the last meta, it's not like it was the best card, right? You had Twin Tyrant, you had a few other cards that are actually above Plague Proto-Drake. It's just the best remaining card. Which also tells you that actually Year of the Dragon was very powerful, and getting rid of it did get rid of quite a few of the other top legendary cards that you all know and love. You know, like your Rap Golems, your Twin Tyrants, your I don't even know, evasive worm thing that charged. That rushed. So yeah, just wanted to put that out there. So if you're just listening to me and you don't know how the algorithm works and you didn't realize this tier list was on an algorithm, it's complicated, and we're pretty comfortable that this is doing an even better job now than it was before, in terms of helping you visualize like the distance between these cards, and better balancing the top end of the game, which has only really become important in the last like year or so. And the middle and early parts of the game, which were always important. One more thing to note is that we used to always say that we had an absolute zero, more or less. It wasn't strictly true, but it was more or less true. It is definitely no longer true. We do not have an absolute zero at the bottom anymore. We have an absolute zero for 0 mana cards, but as the mana increases, the bottom gets deeper and deeper. But we put a cutoff at 0 because we didn't want to show negative numbers. So just know that not all 0 cards are created the same. At 0, we basically mean that you're kind of better off with like almost anything else. Like, yeah, it would be nice to show it, but the negative numbers I think are a little too confusing. So it is not an absolute 0 anymore. We are still centering everything the same. So it is still centered on 100, which means the average card that you're drafting into your deck. Actually, we have to do a calculation on what is being drafted into your deck, because it used to be around a 120. Because it's more spread out now, especially among the larger late game cards, it may be a little higher than 120 now. I'm not sure though. We'll figure that out. I think it'll be still around 120. Like it's not going to move that much. Like we talk about like, oh, Proto Drake moves so much. I think it increased by like 30 points or something. Let me take a look. I've been working with the new tier list for so much that, oh no, actually it increased like quite a lot of points. I take that back. It increased by like almost 50 points. But other cards went down. Okay. That's it from us on this intro. It's already gotten too long. It was meant to be a short, sweet intro. Do you want to? I also want to give a shout out before we go any further. We were talking about the algorithm, and I just kind of assumed everybody knew. But ZD Man is the person behind the actual technical part of the algorithm, whereas I just like kind of say things at him and send him formulas that he's then like, what is this? What are you telling me to do? What is this thing doing? He's really half at least of the genius behind the algorithm. Huge shout out to him. He's still working right now to put the finishing touches on the algorithm because of all the changes we made. So cards will still be moving around, and that's why any scores that you see in this video series may not be the score at launch. We still have like a day and a half, and things will be moving. But the new cards, at least, hopefully not so much. Like it may move within like 5 points. We're really cutting it close this time around. So anyway, huge shout out to ZD Man. We have a whole bunch of other shout outs to give. Merps?
No, we're going to focus this shout out on ZD Man because you guys have no idea what he has to go through and how much work he has done, not only for this expansion and throughout the years. You guys have seen my co-ops with Advocta. It's the exact same thing. It's the exact same hair-pulling scenarios.
Yeah, just for like 3 weeks.
Weeks instead of just a few games. Okay, so like...
And also... Like, yes. In case you guys don't know, I'm less good at building an algorithm than I am at playing video games.
Oh my god, that's terrifying. That's terrifying. So yes, we are gonna reserve this shout out strictly for ZD Man, who is the utmost professional and has the patience of a saint. So thank you, ZD Man. You are a true hero.
I was pushing it this time because I had so many this mana change. Like I was saying this before the stream. I messed up like at least twice. I messed up so big that it like invalidated like a day's worth of work because I just like messed up my like thinking on it. And we pushed this so far to the edge. Okay. Anyway, we'll see you in the next videos. Remember, the videos from here on out are the description of the meta, and then the top neutral minions, the middling neutral minions, and then the bad neutral minions, followed by class cards and legendaries. So this is Madness at the Darkmoon Faire card valuation stream. See you guys in the next video.
Bye.